When the 1976 Canada Cup was proposed, what he called the Elite Six, the world at the time, Team USA was much better from 1972 to early 1976 than they were in the 4 years previously because of the influx of NHL and WHA players into their main squad. So today we're not specifically talking about the results of the tournament for any other team but Team USA, and I want to give the tribute because we have a lot of American hockey followers on the channel, and I want to basically tell them how proud we were in Canada to see how well the States did at the tournament. One win, one tie, and three losses, but to win every game and weren't blown out. Now, it was a very interesting camp because he had, I think, six players that didn't make the squad but are in camp. Now, the forwards and defense, a mixture again of NHL and WHA players. Fred Ahern, the Bennett brothers, Kurt and Harvey, Dan Bolduc, Rick Chartrand of the Habs, Mike Christie, Lee Fogelin, Robbie Ftorek before he became a household name in Quebec, Alan Hangs Blaving, Steve Jensen, Mike Milbury of the Bruins, Lou Nanny from the Stars, Joe Norris, Bill Nyrop again from the Habs, Jerry O'Flaherty, who was a very popular player in Vancouver, Doug Palazzari, of course, the St. Louis Blues skater, the great Craig Patrick, Larry Plow, again former Montreal Canadian, Mike Polich, who was in the Montreal system, Gary Sargent, one of the best Aboriginal players of his era, Dean Talafous, Warren Butch Williams. Now, training camp, Stan Gilbertson, Jim Niekamp, Gordy Roberts, Peter Skamura, Bobby Sheen, and Timothy Sheehy were there, didn't make the main team, but I think they should have kept Sheen and Roberts for obvious reasons for the scoring and skating touch. Now, the goalies in camp, including Mike Kern, Pete Lopresti, the son of the famous Lopresti that played with the U.S. Olympic program before, Cap Reeder, and of course Ed Walsh. Coaches were tremendous. Get this, Bob Pulford and Larry Neal. So obviously the NHL and WHA level was high. So today we're going to be talking about especially the key games against Canada and Czechoslovakia and Finland, where basically they kept the Europeans on their toes. The first game was September 3rd at Maple Leaf Gardens against Team Sweden, for obviously because Sweden was the very famous Boreas Salming was playing with the Leafs, and this was his kind of homecoming, as was Ingar Hammerstrom. Now, the States had a bad first period, giving up 5 goals in less than 13 minutes, and were really bad penalty trouble all the way through. But Dean Talafous, with 2 goals in the third period, really helped the scorer show better. Now, get this, 34 minutes in penalties for the States, only 12 for Sweden. Shots were 37-29 Sweden. Now, the game against Canada played at the Montreal Forum on September 5th was probably their best game in the tournament, even though they lost. Now, the first period that did them in again were Esposito, Mahovlich, Peter, of course, and Bobby Hull scored for Team Canada. However, Freddie Ahern from Bennett and Nyrop scored in the second period, followed by Jensen at 36-39. And only an empty netter by Sittler with 13 minutes to go put the States out of their misery. 12 minutes in penalties for the States, 8 for Canada. Now, the big one was Czechoslovakia, the former world champion, against the United States. And what really stood out for a lot of people was the way the Americans dominated the second period. They scored a trio of goals in the first 10 minutes, and then added a fourth to lead 4-2. Hangslaben, Patrick scored twice, with another one by Ftorek. Now, Halinka and Bubla scored the first 2 goals, but a late counter by Halinka, 5 minutes gone in the third period, followed by Augusta from Milan Novi, the big line, of course, tied it up with 6 minutes left. And again, the big difference here, they gave up one big power play goal to the Czechs. 10 minutes in penalties for the States, 2 for Czechoslovakia. Now, the big game that a lot of people are looking forward to was the game against the Soviet Union. The Americans, with Mike Curran in net, took 32 minutes in penalties, but Soviet Union dominated the first period. Alexandrov scored twice, with Zhlukov getting another with an assist for Alexandrov. Vikulev scored the second period, with Repnev in the final stanza to make it 5-0. Now, The big win for the United States, Pete Lopresti backing it up. Finland led 2-0, but it was all U.S. the rest of the way. Repo and Linonen scored for the Finns in the first period, but in the second, again, 4 goals for the States. Ahern, Ftorek, Milbury, and Ftorek again. And then Nyrop in the third period, much to the delight of the Montreal Forum fans. And Polish, again, the Montreal Canadiens prospect, scoring in the third period. Now, the game at the Spectrum was a kind of a weird sequel to the Ed Van Impe game just a few months later before between Red Army and the Flyers, and that drew a lot of interest across North America. And the other game between the Czechs and the States at the Spectrum drew a capacity crowd, 17,077 fans for that game. But again, the American Russian game had a little bit of a lower attendance, and I really don't understand why. Only 13,000 fans, so must be a winter snowstorm that held it. So again, 1-1 in the 3 in the tournament. The goaltending for the States, Pete Lopresti went 1-1 with a 3.00 average, and Robbie Ftorek was the team MVP for obvious reasons for the States. So what really stands out for me, ladies and gentlemen, just the talent, because the Montreal Canadiens were very heavy on that side. But again, Bobby Sheen should have made that team for his speed, but maybe his off-ice peccadillos, which is well known at the time. But Harry Neale, again, he's WHA years, and it was kind of weird about Harry Neale. 2 Canadians coaching that team. Bob Pulford maybe couldn't coach Team Canada, so 2 go to Ontario boys from Western and Sarnia, with a bunch of Americans on the squad. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of weird when you look at it as a sports center like this. I really think that there should have been a Team USA playing the Russians or the Czechs, similar to Summit 74. It would have been great for hockey. But the unintended benefit of Team USA, the collegiate ranks, and the WHA helping this team develop, and the benefits of 1976 led into 1980, led into more recognition like the Brian Lawton, LaFontaine, Barrasso draft years. I think Americans should be very proud. Very beautiful uniforms, by the way, the Team USA uniforms. He literally looked like an American flag, or I think U.S. Post could have been a sponsor, because it reminded me a lot of a postage stamp. It was quite good. But boys, that USA team, they were pretty tough. Like I said, they were playing the best in the world and not giving any measure. And the fact is, just because they lost the majority of their games, the 2 games that they tied and won will stand out as probably some of the most important victories. This is very similar to Team USA women's hockey squad beating Team Canada its own game when you start getting better, because you could have won in 1980 were not for the success of 1976. It's funny, like I said, I find it strange that pretty well 99% of the roster for the Olympics in 1980, because you weren't allowed NHL players, had nothing to do with the NHL WHA side. This was a true NHL WHA side for Team USA in 1976. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our latest podcast on the Canada Cup. If you like what we're doing here with our tribute podcast to American players and teams of the NHL WHA in the 70s, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.